Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat. I'm with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Pick it up next week. I would like everybody to know I wish discernment for them more than all else. Not ready yet to each in their own time. Long has it been in coming to this, wallowing through the uncertainty of false righteousness, trailing fragment truth. The Spirit found me, courting awkward circumstance, recognition with others of kindred soul. Awakening, I went seeking others. We are to remind each other, one another, of past legend, even as we question our own soul's knowing. And we laugh passing time, sharing passages of favored scripture, immortalized to paper. He will come again, announcing presence with signs and wonder. Night recedes, sunrise on the lips of morning. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen here at freedomslips.com on Studio B. And I thank those of you that have joined us live and have access to the chat for taking the time to fellowship and for always lending us your very kind support. We consider you to be very well educated and a blessing to share dialogue with. I have as guests with me this evening for the next 2 hours both Dan Duval and Carolyn Hamlett, and consider it a great honor to be able to share this interview with them and share this time and space to talk about the incredible information that both Carolyn and Dan have to offer humanity and world. And so I thank both of you for taking the time to join me this evening and for giving me the opportunity to bring forth this show in the capacity that we are. Dan, let me give you a chance to say hello, and then we'll go to Carolyn.
Well, thank you so much, Zen. It's a pleasure to be back on your program. I really appreciate the invite for both me and Carolyn. We had a great time last time, and we're able to share some really, really, I think, incredible things. And I just appreciate your ability as a host to bring out all of that. So I have a personal ministry website at bridemovement.com, and people can go and check that out. I have several books on there, as well as links to our podcast and also a blog. And that's about it for me. Carolyn?
Hey, thanks for having me back on Zen. It's really enjoyed doing the last program. You're a wonderful host to work with. Feel very much at ease with you. And anyway, thank you again and for the gracious welcome.
Well, likewise. I appreciate both of you as well, and thank you. And I know, Dan, that you have a radio program, and Carolyn, you have a website. So before we go any further, Dan, if you'll talk about where people can go to support your work and any contact information, Facebook or anything of that nature that you might want to share. And Carolyn, then we can talk about your website and your blog as well.
Well, my podcast is called Discovering the Truth with Dan Duval. I guess the easiest way to find that is just to Google Discovering the Truth with Dan Duval, or just Dan Duval. It comes right up on the Google rankings, and it posts on various things. I go on Blog Talk and Podomatic and Spreaker and everything posts over to YouTube. The central point to find all of that we're putting out is bridemovement.com, which has links to our archives for the radio program, as well as a link to our YouTube channel, and also different pages that describe everything we're endeavoring to do. One of the things we are putting together is a vision for DID coaching. This is an attempt to help people that have dissociative identity disorder as a result of satanic ritual abuse and government-sponsored mind control projects that cannot afford to finance their own help. And we're starting off with a team of coaches that we're putting together to work with individuals, all of the costs being underwritten by the ministry itself. And then phase 2 and 3 include the building of places, facilities, in order to help people whose living situation is so compromised they can't be helped under current circumstances. And so we are accepting donations, and if people want to support some of the work that we're doing, they can also just go to bridemovement.com.
Well, that's a fantastic endeavor. I applaud you in your efforts to, service and to provide support in that manner. That is, I know a lot of people will be very greatly appreciative. Carolyn?
Well, I have just a blog site, and it is beyondthephysicalrealm.com. I've had that probably, since 2006. So I periodically add articles to that, some of my thoughts. I have plans to add much more, and also to do my own videos for YouTube channel. That'll be next, hopefully.
Can you mention some of the latest blog posts that you've done or that you've been working on?
Well, the most recent one was actually to announce this show that we're doing right now. So there was just an increase of interest on this topic, and so I went ahead and made a separate post to let people know. A lot of people go onto my blog daily, and so I wanted them to make sure that they saw that, because I think what we're going to be covering tonight is really important information, and I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it. So that's why I did that. I also reposted an article that I wrote a couple of years ago. It's called "I Am Not Afraid. I Was Born for This." And that is pretty much, that's my statement. And that's how I live my life, and many people I know are the same way. I mean, in this world, it's like there are no civilians. There's a war that's actually going on, a spiritual war.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of people will be inspired and are inspired by your stance with truth and with Christ, and with the making a priority of the kingdom. Because a lot of people find themselves on the fence and they can't decide one way or the other, especially for those that are just initially awakening to, for instance, the New World Order and the global elite, and the push for police state government, and all of the things that are connected with that, the FEMA concentration camps, all that. And so a lot of people are afraid, and they really, once they are open themselves to the possibility of accepting this as truth, they are scared, and they don't know really which way to turn, because I know when I first woke up, I wanted to talk about these kind of things with, all my loved ones, my friends, all my family members, anybody that would listen. This is the things that I wanted to talk about. But then I found really that nobody wanted to talk about these things, and not a lot of people, especially back in 2004, could relate to the things that I was learning, and that held priority for me as being important, because another thing that happens when we find ourselves awakening is that it's hard for us to just, go back to the old sense of being, to where we could be nonchalant about a lot of topics. I became very serious in nature and in my study, and I didn't want to waste any time. And it was only after a while, after several years of basically running my family and my friends away from me, that I learned to not be all serious all the time, and to learn to find joy and entertainment and humor in life again, and not to be always just focused on these very heavy issues, because I found it to be burdensome to soul to always be focused on just the heaviness of the studies that we do with conspiracies and New World Order and that kind of thing. And so yours, Dan's, myself, all those that are doing this kind of work to try to help people to understand what we're dealing with as far as the matrix of world and the situation, the spiritual warfare against these powers and principalities, and those that have taken allegiance with them. It's encouraging, and it helps people to find forums to where they can talk about these things and find others that they can, relate to, that also have done at least some of the research to make themselves informed on these topics. And it's still, even today, we're really still a minority, that most people have still little regard and not much concern for those things which are important to us as far as learning truth. Comment, Carolyn, and then we'll get Dan to comment.
I totally relate to to what you said, and I'm still trying to find the balance. It's much of my life I didn't have much humor. I've actually been learning how to enjoy life more. I mean, there was a time where I enjoyed life, but it was like about just before the 2000 election, I call it selection, presidential selection in the United States. And, toward the end of Clinton's reign, well, even I can back up further. Some of that information's on my blog. When I started seeing what I knew was going to happen from being in the organization and knowing what their plan was, since I was out of it, of course, I wasn't happy and looking forward to what was ahead. So, I mean, I had a hard time having fun because I couldn't forget the reality that I lived that moment, what I knew was real and what was happening, that a lot of people didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. I knew. And especially when 9/11 happened, a lot of people woke up then too. But it was like, to me, I just knew that was it. I had to try to get more of my information out. I was trying before that time, and it was difficult, and it even got even more difficult after 2001. But the thing is that now, in spite of how reality-oriented I am, I still have to look for the things to laugh at, smell the roses along the way. There's still a lot of good in this world. So I just try to enjoy that, and I encourage everybody else to also. I mean, when people wake up, they generally are very zealous and enthusiastic, and they have the energy. They can burn out, So
exactly,
and they can burn everybody else out around them if they're not careful. So I just encourage everybody: don't give up on people. Just pray for them to help wake them up. And some of these people will not wake up until things get really bad, and then they might have to look up and see what's happening.
Right. Yeah, here's another thing, and then we'll go to Dan, that I wish I would have known, or that somebody would have kind of schooled me on when I first came to realization about some of these things like 9/11 and the government-sponsored terror and the conspiratorial side as far as what we're dealing with as world, is that to honor people where they are, and if they're not ready for the information, to not just try to drill them, to 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 not just overwhelm them with stuff that they're gonna just think is absolutely crazy anyways, because I know that I turned a lot of my friends and my family members, had them turn the other way and run as fast as they can, just because they didn't want to listen to the things that I wanted to talk about, and they weren't ready. And there was a time where some of them came full circle and came to ask me about those things that I had mentioned before. But I find it's a lot easier to just now to plant seeds and allow people to be where they are, and when they reach a point where they're ready for the information that you want to share with them, that they'll be more eager as well to open themselves and to grasp what you're speaking on. Dan?
Well, I've run into the same things. I've been kicked out of churches and been called a heretic, witch, name it. What I found is similar to what you're saying. People that need it the most sometimes are the most resistant to it. When you're talking about getting people caught up to speed with what is actually happening, I tell people to take it back to Ephesians chapter 4. There's a reference to speaking the truth in love, Ephesians 4 verse 15, and I tell people that means speaking the right truth at the right time with the right motive,
right? And
that keeps your hands clean and your motive's pure when you are engaging people and trying to wake them up. I know my paradigm has gone through many shifts then, and I have gone from conspiracy Nazi, oh my gosh, I have to know everything, and this is all depressing, and I doing a tailspin, crash my plane, I just want to die, and all that, and progressed through that into a lot of revelation really about who God is and what his plan is. And we'll be talking about that somewhat tonight, the plan of God. But for me, it's been the relationship with God and getting his perspective on things that have revolutionized not only my life but my ministry as a whole. I work with a number of people, as you can imagine, government-sponsored mind control, satanic ritual abuse, you name it. I hear the worst of the worst every day, Zen every single day. I'm talking murder, rape, torture, abuse, neglect, brutality. Every day, that's what I hear. And you know what? In spite of that, many of my sessions where I'm working with people are filled with laughter.
Yes.
And it's because of this. The Bible says, in his presence there is fullness of joy. And what I found is that in the presence of God, there is joy that transcends circumstance and situation, knowledge base and fact. And when we abide in that presence, then it changes everything. There's a reason why Psalm 2 says the Lord sits in the heavens and laughs. He's not intimidated by his enemies at all.
Right.
And when we graduate into his perspective, we begin to shame the devil with our attitude, actions, and breakthroughs, and relationship with God that changes everything about us and the world around us. So I have a perspective that it carries me through the work God has called me to do, and I just rejoice that he's taught me how to not sink my ship on these things.
Well, I think, with that kind of attitude, too, that you're going to be so much more of a better healer, and you'll help people to accept and to find the joy in life again. Because myself, I could not even imagine going through the things that even Carolyn has had to endure with the different abuse and things of that nature. Hold on, we've got a caller. I'm going to see if they have a. Actually, I said that I'm not going to take calls on this show, and so we're not going to do that. And so I apologize to those of you that do want to call in, but the information is important, and I want to give both Dan and Carolyn as much time as I can to speak on the things that they want to cover. And so we're not going to accept calls during the course of this show, just so you know. All right, but anyways, I cannot even imagine the things that individuals that have gone through the different, the mental and the emotional, the physical and the sexual abuse, and how they do that to program people in a certain way, how most people would never be able to pull themselves from, such a dark space, a dark place, to be able to recover and to be able to find joy again in life, and to be able to even laugh, and to be able to even come to any sense of normalcy. It has to be just completely overwhelming. Can you talk a little bit about that, Carolyn? Because I know that your faith and your knowledge and relationship with Yeshua, with Christ, with the Most High Yahweh Elohim, and the Holy Spirit, that these things have enabled you to get to where you are. We'll have a break in about 6 minutes, and then after that we'll go into the some of the other topics that you had wanted to speak on.
Well, I hope that through this program that a lot of people will kind of get that information from Daniel and myself, and also from you, Zen, because that we serve a mighty creator, righteous creator. I simply put, at this point, I can say that I know for a fact he is our creator. He's the one who has the blueprint, not only for the universe, but for us. We are truly created in his likeness and his image. That is something that many people have not heard. They may think they've heard the message. They may think they have heard the truth of who they are spiritually. But most people have not. God has our blueprint. He's the only one who can put us back together. He's the only one who can heal us. The dark side, Satan is real, Lucifer's real. He can lie and tell people through demonic spirits, through entities from his hierarchy. He can tell people that he can make them better. He can enhance them through DNA, through spiritual, like so-called spiritual enlightenment. As we will be talking in this program, as my testimony goes and shows that that is a lie. The only one that can truly heal us is the one who created us, who has that blueprint. And I would never, ever go back to anything that I did before when I served in the dark hierarchy. There is only God's kingdom, and there is a kingdom that is the enemy has made God their enemy. There's only two.
Yeah, one of the things, like, I know that that I have a disability, and for myself, when I had broke my neck and became a quadriplegic, it was completely, it dissolved my whole world. And it's the way that I can kind of relate to your story and others, Carolyn, and having to pull yourself, out of the darkness and to kind of pick up the pieces of what is remaining. And so in that kind of sense, it was the same for me in that I had to rediscover my faith and relearn. Well, afterwards I went to a lot of restudying and looking at these scriptures in renewed light, and having found myself and rediscovered my faith, I was able to look at what Christ went through in allowing himself to be brutalized and murdered and conspired against in his life, and dying on the cross for us to bring us a chance to have forgiveness of sins and a chance to establish ourselves anew with aligning ourselves in allegiance to what his mission and his role in coming into the flesh, and allowing himself to be murdered in such a way. I just compared, the struggle that I was going through with what I was having to, pick up the pieces of all that was broken, and just imagine what he went through in his life, and it gave me strength. And I know that this is the same for all of us that have understood his mission and his role, his goal for coming here, and for allowing himself to be the Passover lamb to give us a forgiveness of sin, to have a clean slate so that we could take part in salvation and have an eternal inheritance, which was just glorious and forever, to have a restoration of our immortal, bright-natured status, that which we were part of before coming into the flesh. It can restore all hope in a person. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and I have as guests with me this evening both Dan Duval and Carolyn Hamlett. Carolyn, we have a question from the chat room, and I think this will be the perfect question to lead into a segment that you wanted to speak on anyways. Jer Bear asks, I'd like to know when the secret space program was created. So if you have any, any notion on that, if you'll share. And then let's go into some of the recall that you have about the moon and particular buildings, some of the phenomena that you were witness to, that you saw there, and also how it was that you became aware of this information.
Well, I'm not sure exactly when the secret space program began. I'm thinking back that at least at the time of President Eisenhower. Reason I think that is because of some of my information that has come back to me that's, classified papers that I just have information that's just broken through, like, I guess it'd be like a veil in the memory that's come through, or I've seen classified information and seals on the information. Also, I have a close relative who was in the military that kept things secret, but I know enough to think that this particular relative was involved in some high-level stuff with the military and a couple of the presidents. So I know for myself, I have had memories most of my life, like as a young girl, probably 6 or 7 years old. They first began about that time. I think I may have mentioned in the last program, I'm not sure if I did or not, but I had an interest in the space program, or just space in general, back when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, or if not younger. And of course, that was the late 50s. Well, I have memories of being trained with other people, other kids. Also, I've had information come forward to me that applies to Apollo, the Apollo program and training of children. But I do have memories. I've seen other people. I've seen other accounts that other people have also shared that are similar to mine. And the reason I'll mention mine is because I believe there are many people out there that probably have these memory recalls and they're not sure what it means, and they try to dismiss them, but they can't, because it isn't like sometimes they'll come across as dreams, but reoccurring dreams are one thing, but when you dream that you're with the same people learning to operate a certain type of a craft that doesn't even exist. I mean, talk about a wild imagination. You know how to operate a craft. You know what it looks like. You know the people that you are with, and you continuously meet with that team. But the operations you do and where you go is not always the same. Well, even as a child, I had memories of being it's working with 2 to 3 people. And I had those memories and experiences throughout my life. So I didn't know what to do with them. I really didn't. I know what they are now. It's just taken some of the years to try to put the pieces together. People, see, there's a thing about denial. People are programmed to fall into denial, to think, oh, that's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a dream. But you know what? Those things keep popping up. And now, if anybody in the audience is listening to what I'm saying and it's ringing true to them, that they keep wondering, why does that keep coming back in my mind? It's because your subconscious mind is trying to get you to look at it. So take a look at it. Maybe it does mean nothing, but maybe it does mean something. When there's a lot of things that keep coming up like that, it's kind of like it charts out I look at it as like a treasure map in a way. They're all connected somehow or another. So you will find out where they're connected. And it's interesting to find out how everything paints the picture. So the secret space program's been going on for many, many years. So I think that my parents were probably somewhat involved in that on just, well, I don't think I better not really go into that, because I don't think that my father was used in a lot of different ways with the mind control, and as like a guinea pig in the military, where they tested him out with things. They tried to, I don't know what all they did to him. He told me some of it, and I still haven't told that story yet, which there's so much I could tell. But I don't believe they used him in the space program. But what they do in the organization is they keep track of, if they think that they have a good combination, a man and woman, and they have children, they keep track of the children and see what type of, where those children will excel in. And some children aren't used, and some are specialized according to what their aptitude is and their level of interest. So I was used in a lot of different areas because of that, and because of the, gosh, it goes so deep. It's even the bloodline, you know.
Right.
I don't know where to stop, you know, because when I talk, I start seeing all kinds of things I could talk about. So, shall I just go into about the moon thing, or?
Yeah, if you would talk about your own experiences with, if it's the secret space program, or how it was that you were led to this information that you're about to get into on the moon. Was it remote viewing, your dreams? Please elaborate, and
Yeah.
feel free to follow any tangent.
Well,
Go ahead, Dan. You got a quote?
yeah, let me say a few things that will help people to understand kind of where Carolyn's coming from.
Sure.
So that she can freely begin to just elaborate on the story itself. One, when a person is recovering memories, what they run into is the fact that many of these memories are stored in the subconscious. That is an area of the mind. There is the conscious mind, there's the subconscious mind, and then there's what is also known as the superconscious mind. It's 3 levels. And the subconscious mind is also where a lot of our dreams are expressed from. So when a person has a lot of memories that have been compartmentalized and had amnesic barriers put up so they couldn't recall them with their conscious mind, those will emerge from the subconscious mind, sometimes in dreams. But, and this is a real kicker here, and this is going to give a lot of clarity on the whole subject of the secret space program. Carolyn is going to be sharing her story today. From my perspective, though, Carolyn is one of 6 people I'm working with that are all recalling memories of the secret space program. So when I say that there is a trend I have noticed, it's because I'm speaking on behalf of a number of other individuals. And one of the things that they really, really like to do with the secret space program is implicate people's alters in that secret space program. In other words, they don't want the individual that's at the front, or that's the one that you would meet on a day-to-day basis, to know anything about the secret space program. And they'll take it a step further, and many of the ways they will use people's alters, which are fragments of the individual's core, or the original essence of what they are as a human, they will use those parts themselves out of body in order to engage their secret space program agendas. And so what many people don't realize is that the memories they pull back, if they're pulling back memories at all, occur during time frames they know they could not have been implicated in a secret space program. It's like, well, no, that was the day, that was the year that I was hanging out, with my friend, and so on and so forth. There's no way that could have been real. And because it wasn't them. It was a part of them pulled literally out of body like an astral projection, and operating in that program. They have actually learned how to implicate people's parts. And this is how we understand what happened to Carolyn in as far as her memories of getting to the moon, because it wasn't her per se that was going there, at least in the memory that she had recovered and talked about on my program. It was a part of her named Wayne. And so picking up with the concept that they will use a person's alters in order to implicate them in the secret space program, I'll let Carolyn pick up with her story of Wayne.
Actually, it's Alex.
Oh gosh,
it must be somebody. I don't know. I don't want to get mixed up on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Alex. This one's Alex.
Yes.
First, I'd like to mention that. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I mean, there's just different ways that alters are used, and because of my bloodline, I have a close male altar, very close to my core. It's actually a male altar. This altar he actually can take a form of a man. He's a shapeshifter. Okay, that's pretty far out. I'm not going to be probably won't be mentioning about him, but that's one way. One thing that they do in the bloodlines is if they have somebody that through the bloodlines is capable, has that ability to shapeshift, and it does come from also the demonic side. The help from that is really kind of complicated in a way, how that can be pulled in. I mean, it's complicated, but it isn't. And I don't have time to go into really all the dynamics on why I have been able to do that. But okay, so the male altar can be used, has been used in the past, to materialize in a male form and to do work. Okay. Now there's another altar that I have that was actually a body was created for him. That's Alex. And yet there is another one that I will be, if we have time in this program, I'm going to be talking about a trans, what is it? A trans, where's my mind? It's a transporter. Actually, it's an off-world transporter. That particular altar takes a body. It is inserted in like a clone body. So, I mean, all this is going to blow a lot of people away. If this is the first time you've heard about this is not going to be the last time. So, anyway, Alex. Okay. On the picture that I made a rendition that I have on my blog of the building that I saw on the moon. I purposely didn't tell a soul about the shape of the building. I just mentioned to a couple of people I had seen a building on the lunar surface. The reason I didn't mention the shape is because, first of all, I wanted to see if anybody else ever came up with that, had ever seen the same thing. I couldn't find anybody that had ever seen the same thing. So I just decided to go ahead. When Daniel invited me on the program with Gans Shimura, I decided to go ahead and, for the first time, talk about it. Daniel didn't even know what the shape of the building was or anything about it. And I didn't tell much on that particular program about this. But when I did the rendition of this and put this on my blog, if anybody reads what I have there, I said the above picture is my rendition of what I have seen with physical eyes while aboard a lunar-bound craft. All right, I didn't say with my physical eyes, because I didn't think that was totally honest to say my physical eyes, because it was me, it was an altar, and I do have that memory very crystal clear, not only of approaching the building, but with the people that were on the craft with me, and also some things that took place inside of the building. I put with physical eyes I had to think about this, like, how should I word this? And I thought, well, it's true, it was with physical eyes, so that's why I worded it that way. So, Alex, what Alex is, he is a male altar. The people on the craft didn't know that he wasn't human. He was sent on an assignment with this group. There was a special there's several things going on in the building on the moon at that time. And there was a huge meeting going on. People from all over the world were there. And one of them I think I recognized. I still don't want to say who that is, but that was one of the council people. Okay, let me back up. I'll tell you how Alex was created, just a little bit about it. I don't know how the technology works. I will just tell you that what he did in order to, whenever he was used, okay, he was programmed with certain abilities and knowledge of, one thing he could do is operate crafts. He had knowledge of some other languages. He was sent this was more like an espionage trip. He was there to collect information. All right. So when Alex was used, or was ever called to be used, Alex is a fragment of me. He's a altar of me. He would report, like astral travel, to the place where he would stand. His astral body would stand upon a small platform, and there'd be like an arc, like a shape thing on the platform that would go above his head. It was open at the top. There'd be some sort of an electric charge that would happen. It would create a holographic image of him, of how he was to look. And it would, I don't know how it happened, but a physical body would be created. So I know it sounds crazy, like a sci-fi movie. I'm just telling you that that's what they do. And you'll hear probably other people report the same things also, that the military has, I don't even want to call it the military. It's just like secret government military has the capability to do things it's beyond your wildest imagination. Okay, so Alex was actually on a craft bound to the lunar surface to that building for a gathering of, actually it wasn't just humans. There were grays. There were grays in that building. I've dealt with grays throughout my life as me. I have memories from early childhood, even a few years ago. I've seen lots of different types of grays. I've worked with lots of different types of grays. I could actually do an entire program on the grays. So anyway, the grays know Alex. They know that Alex is me. The grays took me aside, and they actually took me down one of the hallways in the building. I think it's an outer hallway. I didn't get to see the entire building, but the reason they took me was that they wanted to take me aside. They wanted to let me know that they were, though I was somewhat impressed with the building and the people that were there, it's like it was my first time there, and actually it was my last time there. I've been there one time. The Grays told me that they were the ones that had pretty well put together the building, that the humans want to take credit for it, that the Grays have other bases there, that if it was not for their technology, there would be nothing on the moon whatsoever. But that the people, the United States mainly, but it isn't just the United States, it's global governments, meet there in that building. That's a trapezoid building. So, and other people that are tied to them, it's like it have to be pretty well up there in the global governments in order to even find out about the building and go there. So anyway, the Grays pretty much, they pretty much let me know that they were in charge of what goes on in that building, and they were allowing the humans to think that kind of take credit for it. So that was just my experience with the Grays. Inside the building, there was a large room. It was kind of like a banquet hall. There were many people there from all over the country. A lot of them were dressed in their cultural, historical outfits. There was food being served, drinks, a lot of talk going on, just some political talk, some just superficial talk. Then after that, at one point, that was where the council was, at the top, that sat up the top at the high podium. And within the audience, it was a group meeting, that these were not the ones that were in the milling around in the banquet room. These were a group of people that serve the council. And there were many of us there. We all said an oath, except actually I didn't say it. I was the only one in the entire group that didn't say the oath. I think I even have written it down. I don't have my notes with me now of what the oath was, or at least part of it. The main lady that was in charge, she could stare at a hole in me. It did not go unnoticed that I didn't say the oath. I couldn't say the oath. Maybe back when I used to serve in the organization wholeheartedly, I could, but I could no longer say the oath. And that is all I remember at this point of that particular trip.
Let me ask you a couple questions, because we're going to be coming to break. But do you remember any other, like any reptilian entities or tall whites? And when we come back from break, I'm going to ask you some questions that came up from the chat room. But also, do you remember any of the content of the discussion, why people were going there, what was being discussed? And also, last question, do you still, well, we'll pick this up on the other side. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and I have as guests with me both Dan Duval and Carolyn Hamlett. Before we continue on with the interview, I do want to remind everybody that Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, that we are the largest listener-supported, commercial-free, and corporate-free platform for truth anywhere in the world or on the internet. There's many hosts, I think 70 plus, coming to you 24/7 on 2 different studios, and that we cover a wide range of esoteric topics, the most important topics being discussed in current events, and we do really need your financial support. And if you value the content and the things that we're bringing to you, especially in shows like I'm doing now, please lend your support monetarily. For the price of one meal, you can join the archives, $4.95 a month, and gain access to all of the MP3s from all the various hosts on both Studio A and Studio B. You can download them to your MP3s, create data disks to listen to, so you don't have to listen to commercials on the mainstream radio networks. And we're like 30% behind, and so I have been asked for you to please do donate. Go to freedomslips.com, click on the donate button. It's very easy. We accept PayPal, which is the safest way to donate or to purchase anything on the internet. And there's seed packs, there's various data disks, bullet drives, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all that kind of stuff is available as well. And know that we appreciate you in advance. But in order for us to continue doing what we do need your support. And God bless all of you in advance for helping us out. All right, Carolyn, there's several questions from the chat room, and I want to get through these really quick. So I'm going to ask you these, and then we'll pick up with some other questions that I wanted to ask you. Really quick answers to this, if you would. First question is, LG asks, Carolyn, your memories, hold on, let me read it. Are these memories that Carolyn has always had, or has she had to recover them? And also, as far as the memories about the lunar building, as how old were you when you experienced or had these visions?
The one about the lunar building was not recovered. What like you go like it was a memory that Alex. It's kind of like, it's hard to describe. Okay, I know you want like quick answers. Mm-hmm. What I can tell people is one way they can understand better how memories work, how they've been programmed to be sectioned off from the conscious mind, I want to refer people to the series of programs that Daniel Dr. Bailey, Dr. Preston Bailey, and Lauren Grace and I have been doing. It's called Are My Memories Real? We've done 4 programs so far. That will help people get a better understanding of how this happens. Because we don't have time to go in this program of how it does happen.
Right.
But I will say that...
website real quick again for those shows.
Okay, it's called Are My Memories Real?
Find...
You can find them on Daniel Duval's site, which is, bridemovement.com. You can also find them on my blog, beyondthephysicalrealm.com. And also on Lauren Grace's blog or site, which is laurengrace.com. Is that correct, Daniel? laurengrace.com?
Yes, that's correct. It's spelled Loren, Grace, not the alternative spelling that most people might assume.
Okay, great. All right.
This was my memory, like a regular memory. It's the only thing I can tell people is that if they have a memory that's been repressed, let's say someone was on a battlefield and they have a repressed memory, they don't remember what happened, but their buddy does. When their own memory returns, they will have the sensation of, oh my gosh, that's right. I know. I always remembered that. I don't know why I could have forgotten it. How did that happen? It's a similar situation where you know it's your memory.
Sort of like deja vu, huh?
Well, it's like crystal clear memory. It's not like deja vu, really. I mean, like some people think of deja vu. It's just, it's your memory. And it's always been there. There's a feeling like it's always been there. And how could you not? It's like part of you knows it's always been there, but another part of you didn't know it. It's just hard to explain. So anyway, that is not a recovered memory like someone, like sometimes that people will they'll sit down and try to write and journal, and sometimes memories will come forward that way. I don't know. It's just hard to describe. But anyway,
and if I can,
please,
jump
Daniel.
in real quick,
Yes.
To talk about this. One, I had a major case of foot and mouth disease in the last section, so I apologize about speaking the wrong name. Definitely is Alex, and so I am sorry about that. The other thing I wanted to say is that for people that have altars, understanding that an altar is a complete split off of that person's original essence, and he will have his own experiences, memories, and opinions of those memories, even viewpoint, on the inside of Carolyn. That altar, that part lives in the subconscious itself. So when an altar or a part is discovered by the front during a session, or when they're working with a person, or just even by themselves, this can be done with journaling and other tools. Often the way it works is that part of their subconscious will tell the person their story. They will actually inform the person what happened to them because they were the part of that person that experienced the event. As they are speaking, they will impart to the person the feelings, body memories, even at times, the depression, their own emotional state regarding what happened. And it's almost as if they are having a conversation with someone outside of the body, except that this is a part of them that is within the subconscious communicating to the front what happened. And so this would be more closely related to the nature in which certain memories are being pulled back when it comes to this conversation.
Thank you for that explanation, Daniel. Appreciate that. All right, just a couple more questions, and then we'll get back to the topic before we went to break. Have you witnessed any Saturn worship among the elites? And what makes the bloodline important as far as the agenda?
Well, even those questions, I mean, it's like I have a hard time trying to decide. Okay, I'm a very detail-oriented person, so I feel like even if I try to answer something quickly, it's not going to really cover it.
Yeah.
So
it's not a problem.
Saturn, yes, there's Yes, Saturn is very important to the elite, and it isn't just, when we're talking about the elite, people need to realize that they may be talking about humans, but okay, like the earlier question that we had before break, it was like, what was discussed and why was I there? Like,
Right.
It's like anything that has to do with these people. They're not really, okay, some of them, okay, what it is these people, these beings, whether they look human or not, and the humans on Earth that are in this program, they serve another being. Okay, that being they serve is real as some of them. I hear lots of people talk about, some talk about reptilians, we've talked about grays. I've heard, I've seen numerous different types of beings and entities. Well, they all serve one other being. They all are within that being's hierarchy. Now, people talk about the people on Earth being Luciferians, the ones that are run the global, they're trying to bring in the New World Order. Same thing. They serve that being who is Lucifer, who is Satan. The ones at the top of this organization, they're humans. They all know that it is Lucifer. He's very real to them. They serve in his hierarchy. They serve his plan. Okay, that's what was going on the moon. They all are serving Lucifer, who is a being, and he has his hierarchy. He has his plan. Now, what I was hoping that we can get to sometime is to be able to distinguish that there is another hierarchy, and that is the one I serve now. And that Jesus Christ is exactly who he said he was in the Bible. So if somebody else, okay, we're talking about testimonies. The last couple of weeks, there have been people trying to tell other people what my testimony is. Well, the best way to find out what my testimony is to hear it from me.
Right.
People can misquote people, and it's easy to misquote people. Some people don't do it intentionally, but it happens. So the best way to get the information is to go to the person. Well, I want to take that to the one step further and have people, to encourage people to look at the Bible. Read at least the book of John. Now read it in context. Now, Jesus Christ is who he said he was. And if somebody takes that literally, they need to take it literally. Read it in context. You can't take it any other way. Gosh, there's so much I could even say about that. Daniel can even break it down into, and I'm sure Zen can too, into the ancient words that were used in the translation. But you can look at even the King James Version and get the full idea of what it is. Now, anybody that tries to tell you that it is not saying exactly what it says, they are not working for God, the creator of the universe, because Jesus Christ is not the avatar that people think he is. Now, some of the people listening to this program know what I'm talking about, so I don't have to go into detail about what an avatar is. Jesus Christ is God himself.
Amen.
So if you don't believe that, I think that if you actually take a look at what the Bible says, you'll see that that's true. I'm telling you it is true. I served in the Satanic hierarchy, Lucifer's hierarchy. I understand very well how that works. I understand that the beings that a lot of people think are going to come save planet Earth and save them and raise their consciousness, those beings are not going to do that. They are part of Lucifer's hierarchy. There is not one single one of them that works for God. Because, look, you have to see who Jesus Christ is. Jesus Christ is the provision that God has made for us. That's the rescue plan. God has a plan, and I think most people have not heard it. So I'm not going to keep talking about that. I just, I'm passionate about it because I know what the truth is now. I just want people, I want everybody to know the truth. It's just been so watered down. I'll make one more point and then I'll try to get back to what we were talking about. But years ago, 1970, I think it was 1971, I had a Kundalini yoga teacher that I mean, we all thought this guy, as much as I knew, from even my background with having mentors that wrote books for Lucius Trust, outlining the plan and, the Satan's spiritual hierarchy. I mean, I knew a lot of stuff, and I worked out of body doing a lot of things for the organization. Well, this particular man, young man at that time, Mike Shreve, was a very, very, what I called highly evolved human being, ancient soul, that sort of thing. One day he didn't come to class. He's always came to class. This time he missed it. One of his friends showed up just before we were ready to leave, when the class time was just about over. One of his friends came and said that Mike had given his life to Jesus Christ. None of us, we just could not believe. How could a guy do that? How could he throw everything away, what he had, for Jesus? I mean, we were just dumbfounded over the whole thing. Well, it took me years later. I know now. Every single person I knew in that class are Christians now. I'm not talking about the Christians that are watered down things that are walking around that actually don't even resemble who Jesus Christ was. They don't even resemble the power that God has for us. I'm not talking about, the occult side. A lot of people can know how the supernatural works in the occult side. They have a cheap imitation. And you aren't going to get the truth unless you get it straight through Jesus Christ, through God's plan with Jesus Christ. And, I know my words probably don't sound like much to people. If it doesn't, just know that, if you could just see that I'm passionate about this, and there's a reason. Just pay attention to the passion and wonder why I have passion. Wonder why I gave all of that up. Wonder why Mike Shreve, he has Mike Shreve Ministry. You can look up his site. Why did he give it up? It's because we know what the truth is now, and we want you to know. We want you to know. It's so very important. So I'll shut up about that now.
Well, it's the most important thing, because Jesus Christ, Yeshua, is the only way to salvation and to eternal inheritance. And that is the thing that matters. That's what we're really here for. Everything else is just an illusion. And for those that think that Jesus is an ascended master, or that he's just one of these, Anunnaki, or because there's so many people that believe that, or think that he's an ancient alien, go to the Gospel of Bartholomew, because there's a conversation in there where Satan is speaking to Bartholomew, and he asks him about his creation, and he tells him that he was the first created archangel, but that it was the Son, it was Yeshua, it was Jesus Christ that created him and all of the other angels, which includes us, humanity, all of creation, everything, that we were made by the Father and the Son. So, which is what it says in John. Let me give Daniel a chance to make a comment here, and then I'm going to ask you these last two questions, Carolyn, and then we'll get back into some of this.
In the book of Genesis chapter 1, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And in the original Hebrew, if you read it, it says, in the beginning Elohim created et. And that word et has no English translation at all. And the Hebrew letters in that word that is not translated into the English language is Aleph Tav, which translates, if you were to do this in Greek, as Alpha Omega. In other words, beginning and end. In the beginning, God created Aleph Tav, et, is saying that in the beginning, God created everything through Jesus Christ, the Word of God.
Amen.
And so when you get to the book of John, and we see that everything that was made through him, Jesus Christ, we are pulling on the full understanding and revelation of what God intended to communicate in Genesis 1:1, that Jesus is the creator. He is the King of Kings. He is the one that is the author of all life, inclusive of his number one adversary, Lucifer, who he already dethroned through his death, burial, and resurrection.
Right.
This is why I serve Jesus Christ. And when we get into the conversation of getting people free and liberated from the pain and the trauma and the strange events, the sleep paralysis, the depression, the desires and inclinations towards suicide, and all of the related things that come along with being a targeted individual, someone that has been harassed and terrorized by demons, aliens, other kinds of life forms, it is the name and authority of Jesus Christ that trumps everything they have every time. And I see it, Zen, every day.
Yeah, you said it perfect, brother. And you're right. It is only the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua, that can set people free, and that these aliens and demons run from. So that in itself is verification of his authority, because he is the only creator. And that's the truth that we're hoping people will come to discernment upon. All right, going back to what we were talking about as far as the building and stuff. Carolyn, real quick before we get to the next break, they wanted to ask you about the council, and they wanted me to ask you how tall these beings were and what their appearance was, and also if you could talk about the oath that you would not, that you could not utter, what the oath was as best as you can remember.
Okay, the people at the podium, the council, they looked human. They, according to Alex, some of them they may have human bodies, but they're like hosts. That he says some of them are reptilian. That's the answer that goes with the reptilians. That the people that were there at that particular time were, okay, reptilians are very proud of what they are, but there are times when they need to not show what they are. They don't like to not show what they are, and it takes energy for them to maintain a human form. But that there were no, at least Alex did not see, I as Alex did not see any reptilian people there, but it is known that there were some there, yes. And the oath, what I will do is, I don't remember right now the words of the oath. I have some notes that I was not able to get to today. I wanted to look up my old notes. I've had major internet problems today and my computer problems. And anyway, when I get to my notes, I will see, I wrote them a long time ago. I will see what I wrote about the oath. I only remember part of the oath, but I will try to share that on my blog when I find that. But it was like a pledging, it was like a type of a pledging of allegiance. I remember that much. And all of us had to say it in unison.
And I would guess it would be towards Lucifer and the New World Order agenda, sort of like the Freemasonic, their blood oaths and their, the whole secret ceremonies and the way that they do things in that way. I would guess it would be similar.
Yeah, it was like a oneness and a pledging to, it was a pledging to the organization and their plan, a oneness. And it's like, I know that if...
Hold on, we'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, everybody, welcome back for our final segment. One other question from the chat room, and then we had somebody ask about Atlantis, and so I thought that would be a good thing to go into as well. But the question was, have you seen or experienced any other weird creatures, aliens, any kind of beings, and are there any good aliens, and if, tall whites or anything of that nature?
There are no good aliens, what people call aliens. They serve Lucifer.
Right.
And I know it sounds like a pretty broad statement, but I could say that statement because of where the position I had in Lucifer's hierarchy. So I know his plan, and all the things that people are seeing as angels. I mean, not angels. Some of those definitely are. There's the fallen ones. They appear as angels of God, and they're not. I can't go into detail about how to test them. That'll have to. Maybe the people listening already know how to do that, or that could be found on Daniel's site or my site and Zen's information. But I've seen numerous types of beings. A lot of them can change what they look like. And a good way to find out how God works his plan and how he operates is take a look at the Bible. If lots of these things that claim to be highly evolved beings, that they're going to raise your vibrational level, all that kind of stuff, they can't do that. All right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to take you away from the absolute truth that there is a plan that they are keeping you from knowing. They don't want you to know God's plan. Now, how are you going to find out better about the Bible and what God's plan is than to read it yourself?
Right.
And if you don't want to read all the Old Testament stuff, like I said, simply start at even the book of John. Read Jesus' own words. Read it in context. There's a lot of people out there and a lot of so-called things that are calling themselves highly evolved beings. They can look like blues, they can look like grays, they can look like reptilians, they can look like, I've seen numerous creatures. My mother saw numerous creatures. But what they all do is they'll quote the Bible, they'll use the word of Christ and make it say it's something it isn't. They'll quote it. But the reason they do that is because the Bible is important, and they don't want you to know it. So back to talking about a testimony, don't let them tell you what the Bible says. Look at it for yourself.
Yes.
Okay? You owe that to yourself. Don't let them use mind control on you. Like a friend of mine was reminding me the other day, the worst part of mind control and the most used part of mind control that people don't even realize, it's when you allow yourself to be controlled by somebody else to turn you away from the truth. So mind control is to prevent you from even looking at the Bible, okay? So I'm telling you to look at it, all right? So, I've seen lots of different types of beings. And, when I'm on the subject, I want to mention right now that a lot of people in the program listening now may be familiar with something called the Wesak Festival. I will be putting something on my blog. It's a story of my mother, some of her experiences at Wesak. It's a high festival in this organization. So it's the Buddhists celebrate it, but in a little different way. So I want you to look at my blog to see what I'm going to be talking about there. And when you look at it, when you look at this story I'm going to write, it's my mother's story. Okay? Now, she was there at the Ascended Masters. Some people can get to the Wesak Festival, which is the full moon in May. They can get there physically on foot or whatever. It's in the Himalayas, okay, full moon in May. Not everybody gets there on the level of the Ascended Masters. Now, what they're telling you about these festivals and these meetings, and it's going to raise your vibrational level, no, it's not. Okay, they're lying to you. And what they're trying to make you think that the Christ that shows up, it's not Jesus Christ. It's not the one in the Bible. It's a fake. It's a counterfeit. All right? So now, when you read about the story I'm going to tell, it's I want you to consider, how could somebody so high up in that organization and know, believe all that a lot of the people are believing, raising their consciousness and all that. How could somebody be doing that and believe so much of it into that and then all of a sudden completely change? How could they turn? Now, I know my mother turned. That's another story. I know that she was shown the truth. I 100% believe she was shown the truth, that I was shown the truth. You get to a certain point up there, they want you to know exactly who Lucifer is, that he's not that beautiful being that they want to tell you he is. I know we don't have time for me to go into this program as to why I know. All right. So that'll be on my blog too, maybe another program we can do it. But when you read my information that I have, please ask yourself, how could somebody know this, be so up there in the organization, and be working to help other people so-called raise their consciousness, and then turn around and not want to do that? That it's because we found out what the truth is. And you know what? The truth is so important that we risk our lives because we want you to know that truth. You deserve it. You deserve it. You know what? If I got killed today, if I get killed tomorrow, it could happen. I don't think it's my time yet. But the thing is, I want you to know the truth, and it's worth me risking my life. All right? So, sorry if I keep getting off on getting off. It's just, I just want people to know how important it is. I'm sorry.
No, don't be at all, Carolyn, because you are risking your life, and this is the most important message. This is the most important thing for people to know, because as we mentioned earlier, it's the only thing that can lead to salvation is through Christ. He is the way and the truth and the light. And as God, he came into the flesh to allow himself to be murdered, conspired against, and killed in brutal way, crucified. And then he proved through his death that he is the architect of light, and that death and Lucifer and the powers of evil, the principalities, they have no bearing on his authority. And he showed with his resurrection that they have no power, authority, control over him, and his rising to glory and sitting at the right hand of the Father. And that he is the answer and the way and the light, the truth. And it's only through him that we can be guaranteed an eternal inheritance, which includes immortality, a return to our first estate, infinity. You know, acquiring salvation is the most beautiful, most awesome gift. I mean, life is incredible, yes, but can you imagine eternal life? And so I'm with you as to this is the most important thing. I dedicate my whole life to bringing this truth, this message to other people, as I know you and Daniel and many others, those of us that have come to this understanding, that realize the importance, the message of John chapter 1, and of the gospel, the fullness of both the Old and the New Testament, as well as all of the extra biblical and extra canonical texts, because they all verify this as truth. And so, you know, that's why I read the poem that I read at the very beginning. I wish more than anything that people have this discernment. Daniel?
Well, time is ticking down. I know one of the things that Carolyn really wanted to talk about tonight was the transporter. So, Carolyn, why don't you talk about the transporter at this point?
Please.
Well, I don't even know if we have time.
Well, we can certainly, do another show whenever you guys are willing and y'all have time. We'll do that. Maybe just kind of set the premise so that we can pick it up in another show. And if you would, mention somewhat about Atlantis, because that was asked as well.
Okay. Actually, I could. You know, it's really weird because I kind of really did want to talk about the transporter a little bit, and I'm not. I mean, I could at least start on it.
Yes.
I'm just thinking that I just wonder why I've had so much trouble trying to get online today, and it makes me think that part of it is that has to do with not only the secret space program but also about this transporter. So I would like to go ahead and try to get that off. Atlantis, I could try to maybe talk more about it another time.
Yeah.
I could go a little bit more into detail, but not much.
Yeah. Just
But,
do what you can, and then we'll pick
okay.
it up in another show.
I mean, even the beings I've met, I didn't even get a list of that. I'll have to put the list out of the beings I've actually been in contact with and dealt with and worked with in Lucifer's hierarchy and all that. But okay, the off-world, I call it the off-world transporter. I wrote this about. This is information I wanted to read on air. It's what I wrote Daniel last year, I think it was. I got deathly sick right after I was just finishing writing the last sentence of this and telling him about it. And I have pictures that I'll probably put it on my blog to help illustrate. I've looked for pictures. That some of the pictures I found online, I found it has to do with the Orion program. What you see online have to do with the Orion program is Stone Age compared to what this is involved in, like off-world transport. So in this off-world transport, that is where a part of me, it's like it's me. It's like I'm actually put into a body and into like a clone type of a body. It's the same one. There's a certain body. And one of the reasons that they use people like me to do that sort of a thing is because if there's an accident or they need to leave the body behind, like deep space, someone like me who knows how to get back, because we're astral, know how to get back astrally, that's viable. It's like the body's expendable and the person can come back. So that's why they've used people like me and trained them up as a little kid to use in these programs. Right. So again, I'm not the only one here. There's lots of people doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I won't go into too much detail right now. I would like to sometime, but about the building where this is. But basically, let me see where I can start here. There's a main control room. This is after I've gotten in the body. We suit up. We all have suits alike. There's a team of us that were 11 of us. Let's see. Where is it? There's a cylinder. Okay, there's a large room. There's a cylinder that is, I don't know, probably about 4 feet off the ground. It may even go deeper than, deeper than the floor. But there's a platform. We have to walk up a few steps around the platform. There's a rubber mat on the platform. We stand around this cylinder. And ahead of us, in front of us, okay, our back is some of us have our backs to the wall. It's like we're in a semicircle. Okay, so let me see where I start reading this. Okay, on the wall, okay, we take our positions around the cylinder. We face toward the cylinder. On the wall, we are looking toward a large window of medium dark tinted glass. That is the main control room. We see a few people in there. They are men, each dressed the same, wearing white short sleeve shirts, dark pants. The main person in charge is not seated at a control desk. He is watching us. He is wearing a small headset. He moves around the room checking this and that, and he speaks to us through a speaker. All systems check. When the system is engaged, I remember the usually deafening sound and a furious blast of white light that emerges from at least the entire circumference of the cylinder. As a blast of light emerges, like white bursting flames and rays, we can see the control room through the tops of the flames and rays of intense light energy. We have eye contact with the men in the control room who are watching us intently as if to perceive our very thoughts of that moment as we are moments away from transport. I perceive the man in charge is concerned that at every second we are all fine. He also wonders what it is like to be there. With us, or be there like we are at that very second. It's like I can remember looking at the man's eyes, and I know that's what he's thinking. It's like you could see it in his eyes. Okay, I'm thinking, as I always do at the moment before transport, that the burst of light, which is much like an explosion that sucks us in, like a flash, is not easy, but like diving into a pool of cold water, which seems unpleasant at the start. The body adjusts itself, and the initial shock is over. Knowing ahead of time what to expect makes it easier. The man in the control room still does not know if he could do it. It certainly is not for everyone. When the burst of light takes us, it is probably like being like in a wind tunnel, only it is all light moving around us. In a way, it's like moving through a hurricane. the crew, are all there together, and we can see each other through though visibility is blurry. We are a unit together. We are still in a semicircle, but closer together. The commander, who was on the other side of the cylinder, the terms collider and colander came to mind. Those are just words that came to me. It's now only a few feet in front of me. Okay. We are wearing white suits, much like what astronauts wear, but not so cumbersome. Our colors are white and orange. We have orange trim on our suits. I am me, but a body that doesn't look like I do here. My body, it's the body I do the projects in. I'm about 5'2" or 5'4", medium to slim build. I have a short brown hair, which is straight, and a sort of page boy style haircut. I have brown eyes. I look to be in my late 20s. Though we in the project have the same rank, we do have a senior officer, a man whom appears to be in his late 40s. He's about 6'2", tall, slim build, parts his hair on his left side. His sideburns are turning gray. I think he has an American flag on the left breast of his suit. On our missions, we address him as commander. He is the one who runs us through our checklist when we get to the module away station. That term module away station is a term I am not normally familiar with, but that is just what I know we call it. We have an away shuttle, more advanced than any pictures you will ever see on the internet. When we have set up in deep space for communication, we have a setup in deep space for communication, though often it doesn't work well, and there is significant delay in reception after relay. Okay, now there's more I could tell about it, like in another time, but there's like different stations set off. It's kind of like a jump. I guess I use like jump gate technology, but they actually can send humans from one station to the next station for deep space exploration, and I don't know. There's other things. I have memories of being on a certain type of a planet to do exploration. If I really took time to think about it, I'm sure I could bring up more memories about it. They're there. So I just wanted to get that out because I know I'm not the only one that remembers stuff like this, and I just want to expose it.
There's other testimony. I think they call it Project Pegasus. Even Andrew Basaggio talks about this. Laura Magdalena Eisenhower, she also speaks about this. Can you tell us about some places where you've been as far as this jump room, that you recall? Mars, the moon, anything, or any other places that you remember having been to using this technology?
This technology took us way far out. That it's places that people aren't even familiar with.
Wow. And
though I can tell you, I know that I know why I was there and what we were doing, but I haven't taken time to investigate it. It's kind of like it's a weird thing. Maybe it's like the programming that they don't want me to. It's like there's more important things for me to know. And it's kind of like I don't want to know. It's like I want to know, but I don't. So I mean, I could find out. I don't know that it's that important at this point.
Let me ask you this. In your travels, or you're having gone to any of these other places, do you recall seeing any megalithic structures or any kind of ancient civilizations, anything of that nature?
No, there was out of body... When this is a whole nother thing, bringing in what I was told were Arcturians. It was a portal opened. There was a grayish planet. There were, of course, there were entities that were living there. I don't remember any structures there, but I know that they were there. We used to meet in like temples and other realms. Mm-hmm. Now, as for the moon, that sort of thing, I mean, I don't have the memories, or it's probably not even the experience that some people have of seeing, like, what the type of structures you mentioned. No, I don't remember seeing any of that. and I don't think I have. So I don't have that in my testimony. I know people who do. I don't think they're ready to talk about it yet, but it's a matter of time. They're out there. I believe it. Totally believe it.
There's another question from the chat room. Does Carolyn know MT Keshe, Keshe, from spaceshipinstitute.org? I'm not familiar myself with that, but after you answer this question, Carolyn, if you would give out your blog site, your website information again, and then we'll go to Dan, and I'm going to give him the same opportunity. And also, any email or Facebook or anything of that nature that you want to share.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that person, that Keshe. I don't listen to other people. I don't know. I'm having a hard enough time trying to get my own information written down and out. It's just, it's heavy. It's heavy stuff. So it's hard enough for me to deal with my own without reading somebody else's. So what I do is I have a few friends once in a while who I call them like my liver, where they digest stuff, give me the cliff notes to it, and so I can kind of know what other people are saying. But that particular person I'm not familiar with that was mentioned.
Yeah, neither am I.
Okay.
Okay, your website, blog.
Yeah, I just right now the only thing I have going with my information is my blog, which is beyondthephysicalrealm.com. I may go back onto Facebook. I'm not sure yet. It's just time. Facebook can be time consuming.
Right.
And so that's another reason why I'm staying off of Facebook, and because there are people impersonating me and trying to say stuff I wasn't saying, and it's just better this way.
They're attacking the messenger.
Yeah, or making it look like they were making fake profiles from what people were telling me. So I just decided to make it harder for that to happen. So I'm just not on there. So,
Dan, can we get your contact, and as well as where people can go to support your work and listen to your shows?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that again. Bridemovement.com. That's bride as in a groom and a bride, and movement.com. And I also want to say that people can get more information about Carolyn on there at our Mind Control tab.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank both of you and let you know I appreciate you for the opportunity and for coming on for our show.